Hello everyone, welcome to BYJU'S Exam Prep IAS. I welcome all of you to today's daily quiz session with us. Before we begin analyzing today's question, here's a quick reminder. In case you are looking for expert guidance for the upcoming UPSC CSE exams, then look no further because we have attached a Google form in the description box of this video. Once you fill it up and we have your details, we can get in touch with you and arrange a one-on-one counseling session only for you from our experts. So now coming back to today's question answers. Let's see the first question here. The very first question is a pretty direct question that says, which of these articles of the Indian Constitution talk about Uniform Civil Code? Well, why has this question been picked up? The question has been picked up because of a recent news which says that Honorable Chief Minister of Uttarakhand, Shri Pushkar Singh Dhami, said, he announced that from first week February onwards, as the state begins its assembly session, there shall be an implementation of Uniform Civil Code throughout Uttarakhand. Now this comes at a time when already UCC is at the heart of debate, a huge controversy between creating same homogeneous uniform laws for all citizens across the territory of India. On the other hand, we talk about how UCC might impede the spirit of Indian culture and the principle of secularism. So not only secularization, but also the fact that UCC or Uniform Civil Code talks about creating similar set of civil rules for all Indian communities residing in India, irrespective of their diverse religious or cultural affiliations. So definitely there are claims from the rival opposition parties and groups of citizens who say that UCC impedes the right to freedom of practicing their unique culture and religious ethos. It is absolutely in contradiction with certain articles of the Constitution which provide rights to every community, including linguistic religious minorities, the right to freely practice, propagate, profess their religion. Yes, I'm talking about the Articles 25 to 29. So from this controversy emerges this question today. Which article talks about the UCC? Now we need to quickly go to the Part 4 of Indian Constitution that deals with directive principles of state policy. Although these are not legally enforceable in nature, but they act as guidelines for the government to make laws for social welfare. So the directive principles of state policy, which practically deal with many articles from 36 to 51 specifically, and these all talk about enabling the government to create a state that focuses on social economic welfare of people. And the article in question is Article 44. Yes, it says that the Indian government shall endeavor, it will try to create same civil rules for every Indian citizen. But what rules does the UCC talk about? Well, the civil rules that we are referring to under Article 44 talk about various issues such as marriage, adoption, maintenance rights of women, inheritance of property, and various other issues associated with divorce. So all these civil matters of life shall now be coming under the ambit of UCC in the state of Uttarakhand as per the announcement, making B the valid answer. A very important topic from the perspective of GS paper 2 UPSC mains, social justice. And on that note, let's quickly come to question 2. It has 3 statements with respect to the International Court of Justice, the ICJ. And the first statement says the judges of International Court of Justice are elected for term of office of 5 years by the UN General Assembly and Security Council. Only half of the statement is valid because indeed these judges are selected independently by the UN General Assembly and United Nations Security Council, but not for a period of 5 years, in fact for a period of 9 years, which means that the first statement here is invalid. Talking about the second statement that its members are independent judges, well, that's correct because once selected, irrespective of which nationality they have been taken from or which nationality they come from, the judges are independent members. The judges are independent judges within the organization, making second statement as a valid one. Moving to the third statement regarding ICJ, it says that no member of International Court of Justice can be dismissed or removed unless it comes from a unanimous or a united opinion of other members and he or she no longer, according to them, fulfills the required conditions for the post. This also is absolutely correct, making only two statements here as valid statements. But why was this question even picked up for analysis today? The reason is a news piece that came saying that the International Court of Justice has held Israel responsible for the massive genocide that's happening in Palestine. Now, we all know about the humanitarian crisis that's going on in the Gaza region, the fight between Israel and Palestine, and the kind of genocide, the kind of humanitarian crisis which people are experiencing in the region for almost multiple weeks now. The fact that children are experiencing lack of medical care. There are old people and women who are experiencing not only displacement but hunger, high degree of mortality and injuries. So all these were highlighted as the ICJ said that immediately we have to take up some emergency measures against Israel for having sponsored this kind of humanitarian genocide. So this is why the question was picked up for you, and a short note on ICJ now. Talking about the International Court of Justice, it is one of the very important organs of the United Nations. And what does it do? Well, it tries to arbitrate, it tries to adjudicate in disputes between different countries. Apart from that, it also issues advisory opinions on international legal matters. Now, a very important point to be noted here. Many candidates are often confused between the ICJ and the ICC. Why? Because both these organizations, whether it's the United Nations International Court of Justice or the World Court as we call it, or whether it's the other organization I'm talking about, the International Criminal Court, both these are headquartered in Netherlands, The Hague. But there is a difference. While ICJ as an organ of UN has no right, it has no jurisdiction over trying individuals who are convicted with genocide. But International Criminal Court has the right. It has the jurisdiction to hold people responsible for war crimes and genocides. That's the key difference here. And on that note, let's quickly slip to the next question on your screen. The third question talks about Treaty of Lagos. It says, which of the following were created through the Treaty of Lagos? The option number A says ECOWAS, Economic Community of West African States. The second is African Union. The third option is Forum on China, Africa Cooperation. And the last option says Organization of African, Caribbean and Pacific States, OACPS. Now, when we talk about the Treaty of Lagos, yes, it was responsible back in 1975 for creating an organization of West African countries. This was referred to as the Economic Community of West African States. Why was it created? Initially, it came up as an organization to promote economic cooperation, economic empowerment. Much later, it also expanded and it led to much more political and military cooperation between these countries as well. So here, absolutely the correct answer is A. But once again, why has this question suddenly become so critical for us? The reason is a news that says how 3 countries from the West African region, namely the Burkina Faso, Mali and Niger, have exited or they have announced their decision to tear apart from the ECOWAS. Why? Because they say that the ECOWAS has already been putting sanctions on them and they are not benefiting per se with the policies of ECOWAS. In fact, they say that the policies and the principles of ECOWAS, this organization, are incompatible with their own sovereign policies. Let's also remember that all these 3 countries we are talking about are experiencing a high degree of extremist violence. They are experiencing jihadi terrorism. They are experiencing hunger, humanitarian crisis and acute poverty. And therefore, they have experienced military coups. They have experienced a lot of communal violence. And then in this light, the decision to exit from the organization called ECOWAS. And now let's proceed with our fourth question for the day. This question says, which ministry is the nodal agency or the apex agency, the topmost agency, to ensure effective implementation of the Scheduled Tribes and Other Traditional Forest Dwellers Act 2006, which is also referred to as Recognition of Forest Rights Act? The options are A. Ministry of Rural Development, B. Ministry of Panchayati Raj, C. Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, and D. Ministry of Tribal Affairs. It's quite an easy guess here. Absolutely, it's D, the Ministry of Tribal Affairs, which is the ultimate, the apex agency in India to look into social economic development of the scheduled tribes. Not only does it advise policies with regards to social economic welfare of the backward tribals, it also investigates into complaints regarding snatching away of tribal rights. It also looks into further measures that can be taken. Also, it looks after implementation. Now, once again, an issue that's critical to your GS paper 2 means social justice segment. Also remember that Ministry of Tribal Affairs became an independent ministry back in 1999. Before that, it was a part of the larger Ministry of Social Justice. And on this note, let's quickly proceed with the PYQ and much before that. Why did we speak about the Ministry of Tribal Affairs in the first place? That's because a news that highlights that how forest rights and tribal rights can actually impact the poll decisions in the upcoming Lok Sabha elections. Why? Because the Forest Right Act has become a very, very critical issue. It has become a controversy that how various indigenous tribal communities have not been given the rights over forests. Now we understand that tribes are very, very intrinsically associated with their forest areas, whether it be for their religious purposes or whether it be for their livelihoods. So a lot of these tribes have been taken away from the areas to which they belonged. A huge displacement has happened in the face of economic development, and that's why this news becomes important per se for us. Now, to proceed with the PYQ from 2016, it says, Satyshodhak Samaj was organized. Why? A. A movement for upliftment of tribals in Bihar. B. A temple entry movement in Gujarat. C. An anti-caste movement in Maharashtra. Or D. Was it a peasant movement in Punjab? Pretty easy. Definitely it was an anti-caste movement in Maharashtra. It was started by none other than but Honorable Mahatma Shri Jyotirao Phule and his revered, his very, very famous lady figure in India, his wife Srimati Savitribai Phule. Now why we are mentioning Srimati Savitribai Phule is because again GS paper 2 social justice. Now she is also referred to as mother of Indian feminist movement. Let's remember that. The reason is because she had promoted a large-scale school education campaign for girls. So back in 1873, the Satyshodhak Samaj came up as a movement to guarantee self-respect for the so-called lower caste communities. Also, to protect and to empower women who were victims of widowhood, women who were victims of homelessness, lack of education, and hence they were subject to acute poverty. So essentially it was to empower the Dalits and the women, two very, very vulnerable segments of Indian society. Let's remember that, and C is the valid answer here. And now let's quickly see what's the interesting fact of the day. Well, this comes from biodiversity and ecology. We are talking about a new species of tiger. Even if not new, but a new discovery when you talk about Odisha and specifically the Simplipal Tiger Reserve of Odisha. Now we are talking about a species of tiger who are so unique that they are very, very different as compared to conventional tiger species that we know about. Why? Because they are called as melanistic tigers. The name has been taken up from a bird called melanin. We all know that melanin is supposed to be a pigment. It is basically a polymer that comes from amino acid known as tyrosine. What does it do? It's found in the body of many organisms, including human beings. It's responsible for creating pigment. In fact, a lot of us owe our eye color, hair color, skin color to the presence of this pigment called melanin. The cells responsible for creating the melanin primarily in human body are known as melanocytes. They are very sensitive, and specifically if exposed to UVA radiation. As a defense mechanism to protect yourself against the harmful ultraviolet radiation, the melanocytes create melanin, and that determines the color of our skin in a major way. So now here also, what happens is that certain species of tiger are experiencing overproduction of melanin in their bodies, creating a condition which is referred to as melanosis. Right? So here what happens, these tigers then develop a specifically unique black pigment. Either this comes in the form of thick black stripes on their body, like this one in the picture, or it can also come in the form of stripes, spots, and many areas of the body that look visibly pigmented. And this in fact has raised another foray of speculations that what if this promotes ecotourism in the state like never before. And that's true because it becomes a super touristic attraction. Now these are also referred to as pseudo-melanistic tigers, given that some of them have a dominance of black pigment while some of them have the conventional golden yellow color. And in this light, we do feel that now the Simplipal Tiger Reserve of Odisha will experience a very high influx of eco-tourists, tourists who are coming here. They are reaching here in large numbers to observe this unique specimen of tigers. And hence, it becomes a very interesting point when you talk about your environment and biodiversity. On this note, we therefore come to an end of today's session. I hope you enjoyed this session, and if it helped you, then kindly do subscribe and like with this. Thank you so much to all of you.